What's up everybody, Tom back again with another action camera video. In today's video I'm going to be talking about the DJI Pocket 3, which was released today, and we're going to do some comparisons of streaming with the Pocket 3 against the Pocket 2, against the DJI Osmo Action 4, as well as the DJI Action 2. So yes, the Pocket 3 was released today. I did happen to have the opportunity to pick it up from my local electronics store at which I'll post a link to in the description below. But really this video is meant for IRL streamers who are on the fence as to whether getting the Pocket 3 makes sense for them in terms of better image quality relative to some of the other popular options on the market today in the DJI product space. So we'll look at Rtmp streaming, we'll look at the new webcam mode in this camera, as well as any of the other cameras that support it, and you can draw your own conclusions. Take a look, let me know what you think in the comments below relative to the Pocket 3's image quality and the other cameras. And if you find this video helpful and are interested to know more, consider hitting that subscribe button. If you like the video, hit that like button, it does help out the channel. Without further ado, we'll jump into a video comparison. Okay, so we're live right now. This video is being recorded in OBS, but it's being sent from the Pocket 3 over USB UVC mode to BELABOX and then streamed through my cloud relay server into OBS here, which is being recorded. That's why you're seeing this gray glitch, because sometimes network glitches happen. But I'm in full auto mode on the Pocket 3. And again, it's 1080p, 30 FPS out over UVC to the BELABOX. And if you're looking at the image quality and you're thinking it's not too bad, well, it does seem like it's not too bad. But what I quickly learned upon connecting the Pocket 3 over USB is that it actually streams in 9:16 aspect ratio, not 16:9, which is common. So if you've been following the Pocket 3, you know that it's got this cool spinny screen, and it can also film and record in portrait and landscape mode. Interestingly enough, in USB webcam mode, even if you have the camera set to landscape mode, the video aspect that it puts out is actually 9:16 and not 16:9. Now what you're seeing here in this video is that I've expanded that 9:16 aspect ratio to the width of the OBS scene, so you get full frame there. But I believe what's actually happening then is you're losing some fidelity in the image quality, because you're effectively zooming in to fit that portrait picture into a landscape orientation on the scene. So watch what I do here. I'm actually going to reset the I guess the size of the source, the media source in OBS, and you're going to find that it'll shrink down and you'll see kind of the letterboxing effect that's going on here. So let me do that real quick. Reset transform on the scene here. I had the wrong thing. So transform, reset transform. And right there you can see how it's much smaller. This is actually, you aren't going to be able to see kind of the frame here where it's 9:16, but the effective width of the picture, me in the middle, is that's the width. That's the 1080 width, which really should be 1920. So I'll just go ahead and center this right here so you can get a sense for like center to the screen. It leaves a lot to be desired. So no matter what I tried, whether I put the orientation in forced landscape or auto orientation or portrait, what have you, it's outputting 9:16 instead of 16:9 over webcam mode. And there's nothing I can do that seems to change that aspect ratio. So kind of disappointing right off the start. You would hope that you'd select landscape and then it would output a landscape aspect ratio. But unfortunately that's not the case. So something to consider off the bat if you're looking to get this camera and use the webcam mode for streaming. It's going to put out 9:16. Now hopefully DJI will fix this in an upcoming firmware update. I gotta imagine that's not rocket science to fix, and that they should be able to lock in the output aspect ratio depending on whether you select landscape or portrait in the software. So we'll see. With that said, I'll try to do my best to get this back to where it was, at least aspect ratio wise, to fill the screen. you can take a closer look at the quality. I do think the quality does look pretty good. You know, to me, this, you can see a lot of detail in my skin. You can see my, you know, pores, scars, etc. I'm not doing a whole lot in this scene. I'm just kind of sitting talking. So I'm going to do some like rocking back and forth to kind of give you a feel for, all right, is there any sort of artifacting, which there shouldn't be. When you're in a hardwired connection, you're not getting this Rtmp compression, right? So this looks generally like a nice overall quality image, but I think we could do better. So hopefully they'll come out with that 16:9 instead of 9:16 aspect ratio over webcam mode. So that's test number 1. Next, I'm going to move on to Rtmp streaming with the Pocket 3. And this is an interesting comparison. So let's take a look at that, and then we'll go through the kind of the gamut, and you can leave a note. All right, so next up we've got the DJI Pocket 3, and we're currently in Rtmp mode. And this is outputting 1080p 30 frames per second. Again, all the settings are on auto. I've got auto white balance. I'm in pro mode, but I've got auto shutter speed, auto ISO. So everything's pretty much just, you know, what you'd expect full auto out of the box here. And if I take a look at this picture quality, it's pretty outstanding. Like, I'm not moving a lot right now, but you can see a lot of detail in the shadows. You can see a lot of detail in the highlights, like the shadows of the skin on my forehead, detail on like my skin creases, all that good stuff. You actually can see on this side here, like a lot of detail in this highlight, like right around my eye. Like, that's incredibly detailed, and it's Rtmp. You can see kind of the, whatever, I'll call it like detail or clarity in my scruffy 5 o'clock shadow here as well. So just looking at the Pocket 3, wow, picture quality over Rtmp is pretty outstanding. Now, I'm not moving much, which if you've been around streaming for a while, you'll know, like, the more motion that's in a scene, the more work the encoder has to do to kind of compress that and encode that picture. So I'm gonna start moving around a little bit. This is kind of going to be the theme of these videos. Like, how does this look when I'm moving? Do you see a lot of the typical Rtmp blockiness? I don't see a whole lot. Like, there's a little stutter there maybe, but I'm not seeing like that blocky compression, you know, whatever I would call it, artifacting that typically takes place with Rtmp streaming at lower bit rates. So it feels like the quality or the internal camera bit rate it's using for the picture for Rtmp is pretty high. Like, I think this, to me, honestly, is the best picture I've seen from a camera, with the exception of maybe the Sony X3000 over HDMI. So I don't see a whole lot of like artifacting going on there in the background, like the wall. That's where you would see it, is like the wall behind me when you're moving. You'd see a lot of like blocky, like, you know, colors kind of just becoming big patches instead of a smooth wall. But you don't really see that. So picture looks great. That's kind of what my takeaway is from this. Now in the Pocket 2, there was something that would take place when you'd press record while Rtmp streaming. Like, the camera visual fidelity would noticeably increase when you were recording on the Pocket 2 while live streaming over Rtmp. I'm going to press record here and see if that has a similar effect. Let's find out. Here we go. I just pressed record. I don't really see much of a change, other than maybe to see like the picture itself is stuttering some more. It doesn't really appear to improve the visual quality at all. Picture looks the same to me. Like, the wall behind me still looks pretty smooth. You're not seeing that typical Rtmp blockiness. Yeah, it seems to be stuttering a bit here and there. Maybe that's because it's recording and maybe I don't have the best SD card in there right now. But I'm not seeing any noticeable improvement in picture quality while recording. I'm going to stop recording and see if that does anything when I go back to non-recording mode. I'm still streaming. Let's see what this does here. It doesn't really look any different to me. The quality still seems very high. Again, kind of this like highlight around like my face here, there's a ton of detail like in that highlight. Like, it's maintaining the detail in like areas of high brightness and, you know, in the shadows as well. You can see that. So that's the Pocket 3 over Rtmp. Interesting to note about the Rtmp mode is, yes, it outputs a 16:9 picture. It's not a portrait picture with a landscape image kind of bisecting it. It's full 16:9. I don't have to rotate, I don't have to scale. And there's also no option to Rtmp stream in landscape mode. Like I'm looking at the menu here, I cannot, sorry, there's no option to stream in portrait mode. I'm looking at the menu here, the orientation is grayed out, I cannot select portrait mode, so it seems like you're locked into landscape mode, which I suppose is a good thing, at least for the community that I'm a part of. So with that, we're going to hop to the Pocket 2 now and do a more direct comparison. All right, so we're here now on the DJI Pocket 2, 1080p 30, Rtmp mode, auto exposure, auto white balance. I've been having a lot of problems trying to get this thing to stay connected. So that's probably a whole nother sidebar about the unreliability of the Pocket 2's Wi-Fi Rtmp streaming right now, at least in the midst of all these other electronics. But anyways, I think you can look at the picture right off the bat and you can tell the visual fidelity is not what the Pocket 3 is. I'm in pre-recording mode. I'm not recording right now. If you've seen some of my previous videos, you'll know that I've talked about how when you press record on the Pocket 2, it actually seemingly improves the Rtmp bitrate. So we're going to do that here. So again, Rtmp, DJI Pocket 2, 1080p 30. I'm going to press record after I do a little test. So watch when I lean to the left and right. You'll see on the wall behind me kind of this blockiness, which is pretty standard with Rtmp kind of encoding at a lower bitrate. Like you'll see how the pattern changes. You can see some squares there on the wall. It's definitely not the same quality as the Pocket 3, but what happens when I press record? It is going to, I would argue it's not going to get as good as the Pocket 3, but it is better than pre-recording on the Pocket 2. So like this was an area on the Pocket 3, it looked like there was so much clarity, like on this highlight on my face here. It's not quite the same clarity, but this is better with recording turned on than it is with recording turned off on the Pocket 2. So if I move back and forth, take a look at this here, and you're seeing kind of like, all right, the wall is not as blocky, although you can see kind of some of the Rtmp encoding artifacts. It's not as bad. Like I'm talking specifically about like this area right here. Hopefully I pointed my finger in the right direction. I need to go over more. So I'm talking about like this area, like down on the wall behind me. When I move back and forth, there's a little bit of like blockiness, but not nearly as bad as when recording was not turned on. Now, interestingly enough, if I press record again and turn recording off, it seems to stay at a higher quality, which is something new I just learned today. It doesn't go back to the pre-recording blockiness. It seems that it locks in some kind of higher internal Rtmp bitrate when you press record. So that's a good thing to know if you're using the Pocket 2 and you're doing this little like recording workaround. You can actually just press record and press it again, and seemingly that it'll use that higher bitrate for the length of your stream as long as you're still connected. So, all right, so here we are. We're on the Osmo Action 4 now, and we're actually in USB webcam mode at the moment. What can I say? This is an interesting comparison. The quality is good, but it's clearly, to me, not as good as the Pocket 3. Like, noticeably different. Colors are not quite as rich. There's definitely not as much, I'll call it like clarity in the picture. I'm trying to get like a similar angle here. You can see kind of this highlight, on my face is, it doesn't have the same clarity. Again, it's not the same FOV. This is a much wider FOV, and I have it in linear mode, but it's, it's still 100 plus degrees of FOV, whereas on the Pocket 3, it's 90. I don't have the wide angle lens, but this is better than the Pocket 2 without recording. It's hard to say whether I think it's better than the Pocket 2 with recording on. I think it's comparable. It just has a little bit different feel, style, look to it. But I feel very kind of muted color-wise. I would almost say that this is not nearly as good as the Pocket 2 in RTMP mode with recording on. But what's great about this, honestly, it's an action camera. It is connected via USB. Like, I am in a dark room, which is probably not the best situation for this camera. I do have a very bright light here, but this camera does look great in the outdoors, I'll say that. So if I'm moving back and forth, like, there shouldn't be any encoding artifacts on the wall behind me, because, you know, it's USB webcam, so it's just outputting a constant bit rate. It's not really doing any encoding, I wouldn't imagine. So, and I don't really see any artifacting going on. The picture just kind of looks like softer to me, just not as much detail, softer, not as clear, not as much, you know, clarity, if you will, on this camera relative to both the Pocket 2 and Pocket 3. Different sensor, all of the above. But what you do get here is stabilization over webcam mode in the Action 4, which is huge. Like, this has been my go-to camera ever since I got it earlier this summer. Mounted on the stem of my handlebars. I get that nice stabilization. I get the reliability of a USB connection. And I'm not dealing with like Wi-Fi RTMP dropouts, which is awesome. So, still think this is a great camera. I'm curious what you think. This relative to the Pocket 2 in recording mode, relative to the Pocket 3. And leave a note in the comments below. We're going to now switch to the Osmo Action 4 in RTMP mode, and we'll see what that looks like. All right, now we're here in the Osmo Action 4 in RTMP mode, 1080p 30 FPS. You know, highest possible quality setting, streaming, bitrate, whatever you want to call it, in the Mimo app. Seems like it looks similar to USB mode, but what happens if I start moving? Is it going to change here? Let's see if we can see any artifacting going on in the background. Yeah, you can see a little bit. It's not terrible though. There's definitely some more stuff going on, I feel like, than I saw with like USB mode. Man, look at how big my nose looks when I get closer to the screen like that. Overall, I would say the quality between RTMP mode on the Osmo Action 4 and the webcam mode they're fairly similar in my opinion. Not as good as the Pocket 2 or Pocket 3, at least in the lower light conditions here indoors. But I would say it's a pretty good picture overall. Like, if I were to rate the three thus far, Pocket 3, then Pocket 2 in recording mode, and then I would go with the Action 4. Like I said earlier, Action 4 gives you a lot of benefits because it does have stabilization in over webcam mode, which you just don't even have a webcam mode option on the Pocket 2, and you're kind of dealing with the flakiness of RTMP and Wi-Fi and all that on the Pocket 2, which is kind of a drawback. So this to me is like, it's pretty good quality. I would call this, like, to me, this like B plus quality. I think if you get to like Pocket 2 RTMP with recording, that's like A minus quality to me, with like maybe like a C or C plus reliability with RTMP. Pocket 3 quality, A plus. Like, that's how I would put it in either webcam mode or RTMP quality. Remains to be seen on reliability over RTMP, because I haven't used it that much. Haven't used it at all for streaming, to be honest, other than these tests. But that's kind of where I'm at right now. So you've seen now the Osmo Action 4. We're going to hop to the Action 2 from DJI now, and we'll do USB as well as RTMP, and let me know what you think about that. All right, so real quick, one last thing I forgot to test on the Action 4 is what happens if you're RTMP streaming and you press the record button. So I'm going to do that right now. You've seen it without recording on. This is with recording on. It shouldn't change anything based on my previous experience. Like, the bitrate's not going to go up. Again, I just hit record. It looks the same. I'll do the bouncing back and forth. Let's see. I'm a little bit delayed on my laptop here, so I'm kind of like talking but then waiting for it to appear on the laptop screen. But to me, the quality looks the same whether recording's on or off during in the Osmo Action 4. So let's take a look at the Action 2 now. All right, so here we are now on the Osmo Action 4, and yes, I'm holding my Rode Wireless Go because apparently on to say Osmo Action 4, I meant Osmo Action 2. I'm holding the Rode Wireless Go 2 because apparently on USB webcam mode with the Action 2, there's no audio out. BELABOX wasn't recognizing anything. I was getting capture card errors because I was trying to have an audio pipeline, and it wasn't giving me anything. So I have my mic going into the BELABOX here. That's how I'm getting audio in. So um, what can I say? The image quality right off the bat in webcam mode just doesn't look nearly as good as any of the other cameras. It's like way more contrasty. Um, Colors just look kind of weirdly saturated. Skin tones look a little bit more orangey, but you're not getting the bit rate artifacting issues, etc. Like if I'm moving left and right, you don't have any of that Rtmp compression. But really the rub here with the Action 2 is there's no stabilization in webcam mode. So, you know, the neat factor of the Osmo Action 4, they never backported that to the Action 2, unfortunately. It'd be nice if they did. This is a really nice small camera, very inconspicuous. If they had that functionality where you could have stabilization in webcam mode on this, like this camera would be dynamite. You'd see a lot of people using it. But unfortunately, that's not the case with the Action 2. No stabilization in webcam mode. Also, no audio through the camera in webcam mode, as I've learned here. So let me know what you think of this camera quality. Next up, we're going to do Osmo Action 2 in Rtmp mode as the final test. Okay, last but not least, we are on the DJI Action 2 in Rtmp mode, 1080p 30 FPS, auto exposure, auto white balance. You can see already there's more stuff going on in the picture. You can see kind of like this pixelation, like haziness, kind of like lower quality going on over there. Image is soft, doesn't feel sharp at all. It just feels very blah to me. Um, you do get audio through the camera when you're in Rtmp mode. Like I said, over USB, you don't get audio. You need an external mic then in USB webcam mode. So that's an interesting thing about the Action 2. Move back and forth. Let's see if there's anything going on in the background here with regards to pixelation on the wall behind me. I'm willing to bet there's going to be something going on here. Yeah, you can see it's pixelated. It's not really like changing that much. I can't tell if that's because of the FOV and it's, you know, just much wider and therefore it's not as zoomed in. But picture quality is just not great. Not something that we strive for in the IRL community. We like that nice, good picture quality, especially when it's like low light scenario. This camera is not the camera for that specific use case. So let's test out recording with the Action 2. What happens if I press record? Do we get the same effect as the Pocket 2? Based on previous experience, I'm going to say no, that's not going to happen. I just press record there. Nothing seems to be happening. Like the cameras didn't change image fidelity, quality at all when I did that. If I move back and forth, if I, you know, put my arms up or something, it's the same level of Rtmp pixelation. To me, this almost feels like it's not so much a bitrate issue on this camera as it is a image sensor issue. Like, I don't know that they could really push the bitrate any higher for Rtmp streaming from the camera to whatever, you know, Rtmp server and make it any better. I just think the sensor itself is not that good. It's a much smaller sensor than other cameras in this lineup here today. And with that, you just don't get as nice of an image. So that's it. Let me know what you think about all of these cameras. We looked at the Pocket 3, we looked at the Pocket 2, we looked at the Osmo Action 4, we looked at the Action 2. You know, I'm curious to see right in the comment below, like what's your ranking of image quality? Obviously, there's a lot of trade-offs when it comes to stabilization. Is it an action camera versus is it a gimbal that's a little bit more sensitive? You know, for me, the clear winners are the Pocket 3 as well as the Osmo Action 4. What I like about the Osmo Action 4 is you got stabilization over webcam mode. It is an action camera, so it's a little bit more rugged. You're not worried about a gimbal head getting damaged, so forth and so on. Plus, it's got electronic image stabilization, which is going to help, in my scenario, smooth out all those like micro vibrations of the road, bumps, etc., transmitting through the bike to the camera. Like electronic image stabilization handles all that, no problem. It's designed, the algorithms handle that. Whereas Pocket 3, I don't know if that will be as I'll call it like as stable if the camera is mounted to the bike. Like I've used the Pocket 2 and I had it mounted on my helmet, so my body was kind of acting as a buffer or dampening system against all the road vibrations and noise. I don't know if I put a gimbal on the handlebar itself or attached directly somewhere to the bike if it would work very well, because it's going to absorb all those vibrations. The mechanical gimbal is not designed to like smooth out those types of jitters. And I've seen some things online where, you know, people mounted a Pocket 2 or Pocket 3 to some sort of moving vehicle, whether it be a bike or something else, that, you know, had some kind of road surface vibration noise or whatever, and it struggled. Like you got a lot of jittery, wavy type of motion, even though it was on a gimbal. So, you know, for my use case, Pocket 3 clear winner in terms of image quality. If I'm going to use a gimbal mounted camera for me, it's got to be mounted to the body somewhere, most likely. Although I haven't experienced with the Pocket 3 or gimbals mounted directly to a bike, intuition just tells me it's not going to work the way I want it to by mounting it directly to a bike. So gimbals, to me, mount them to your body. Action cameras with electronic image stabilization, yeah, put them on the bike, do whatever. And for that, I'm going with the Osmo Action 4. If I want a cooler, you know, POV of a helmet cam, I'm going with the Pocket 3. This is a clear winner to me. And I'd probably use Rtmp mode for that, honestly, because that quality looked awesome. And as we saw with the webcam mode on the Pocket 3, it's outputting a 9:16 right now, which, you know, is a little funky. It's not, you know, I gotta zoom that image in to have it fill out the frame in OBS, which isn't ideal. So let me know what you think. Pocket 3, great camera so far. Just got to work out some kinks with some firmware with that 9:16, and that's it. Hope to hear your stories about what action cameras you're planning to use for your upcoming IRL streams. That's it for now. Peace. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.